Years ago when I was first getting into guitar and guitar amps, I always thought that bigger was better. Whenever you could afford it or had the space, you wanted more wattage and more speakers. And in fact, my first real giggable tube amp that I got was that Port City Pearl. It's a 50 watt 6L6 pedal platform amp, and the matching cabinet is a 212, but it's honestly almost as big as a Marshall 412. Now that amp got me through my first several years as a professional musician. It was the only amp I had, so I took it on every gig around town, loading it in and out of dive bars and clubs, on church gigs, on sessions, and it even got me through my first national tour up and down the East Coast. And a few years ago, I moved into the FTR 37 from Divided by 13. Now, if you've been around the channel for a while, you know that I absolutely love this amp. It works great as a pedal platform, it's got great natural breakup, but it has a few drawbacks. Mainly, it's way too loud and it's way too heavy. It's 37 watts, which might not sound like a lot, but trust me, it's a loud 37 watts. It has a half power setting on it where you can knock it down to 18 watts, but with that amp, it really doesn't make it any quieter at all. It just makes it break up sooner. You have less headroom. Even on the biggest stages, I get told to turn that amp down. So now the older I get and the more traveling I do, the more I find myself wanting to play smaller, lower wattage, lighter and quieter guitar amps. Now this is something I never thought I would find myself saying. I've always loved big, loud, powerful amps that move a lot of air. We all know that feeling of being on stage and feeling your pant legs flap in the wind. Well, I've been wearing skinny jeans for a long time, so my pant legs don't flap in the wind, but you get the idea. And so in the last few years, I've started accumulating some smaller, lower wattage amps. My first small amp was the Fender Blues Jr., and that thing has been a total workhorse. I've modded it, I've changed the speakers, it's been featured on the channel a lot. It won't be featured today because it currently has an issue that I can't diagnose, so it needs to go to the amp tech. And then not long after buying my Blues Jr., I picked up what is probably one of my favorite pieces of gear I've ever owned, and it's the amp we're going to talk about in today's video. My 1964 Gibson GA-5T, also known as the Skylark. Now the Skylark is an incredible little amplifier. These were some of Gibson's most popular selling amps from the 50s and 60s, and I can honestly see why. This is a total no frills amp. It's 10 watts, a single 10-inch speaker, and a single volume knob. Mine has a knob to control the tremolo circuit, but they also made some without trims that are literally just a single knob. And for me, I could get away with this amp not even having a volume knob because I leave it cranked all the time. It sounds incredible. In fact, here it is with just a little spring reverb from a Strymon Big Sky. So that brings me to my first point of why you need a small low wattage amp. The volume. I'm literally sitting at ear level about 2.5 feet away from this amp with no hearing protection, and this thing's not killing me. If I was doing that with literally any of the other amps on this rack right now, I would be doing some serious hearing damage, especially the Divided by 13. I wouldn't even be able to be in the same room with that amp if it was cranked all the way up, much less sitting right in line with the speakers. Now that goes on to my next point, which is really great overdrive sounds at low volumes. See, when you think of an overdriven guitar amp, what you're thinking of, that sound you have in your head, most likely is power amp distortion. It's the power tubes that are distorting, not the preamp section. So you can get really amazing overdrive sounds at bedroom levels with no power scaling, no attenuators, none of that wizardry that's needed with normal bigger amps to make them quieter. That thing is running wide open, working as hard as it can, and because it's got a small, low wattage speaker, you're actually overdriving the speaker as well and getting that great speaker saturation along with that power amp saturation. It really is a great way to get an overdrive sound. Then if you really want to push it into overdrive, all you need is a simple boost. Right now I'm using the Vertex boost just to kick the front end of the amp a little harder. Now, another reason I really love working with low wattage amps like the Skylark, and specifically the Skylark, is amps like this record incredibly well. They sound huge under a mic. The track at the top of the video, every single guitar track on that recording was done with the Skylark and with these mics, the blue Baby Bottle SL and the blue Encore 100. Now, when recorded properly, these amps fit in a mix incredibly well, and they sound way bigger than they look. And because of that, these are great tools to have around your studio to write with and record with, because you can get some massive sounds from a tiny little package. I mean, it's honestly crazy. And when you think about some of the most iconic guitar recordings of all time, a lot of them were done on small amps like the Skylark or Tweed Champs or Tweed Deluxes, which, yes, I know I have a Tweed Deluxe right on the rack right there. It's going to get its own video, I promise. But some of the biggest, most important guitar players out there have used small 5 and 10 watt amps to record some of the most popular songs of all time. Some of the best sounding guitars of all time were done on these little baby amps. Now, another really great reason that I love the Skylark in particular is because it's actually a really great pedal platform. You wouldn't think so. It's only 5 watts, so you think it wouldn't have that much headroom, but it actually does. It cleans up really nicely. So I've just got a little bit of reverb coming from the Big Sky, but listen to how well this amp cleans up. All right, so now we're going to dial up a slightly more ambient sound so you can hear how the Skylark works with pedals. So I've got a big plate reverb coming from the Big Sky, I've got a little chorus coming from the Mobius, and that's it. But listen to how big this amp sounds. That is a great type of amp to have around your home studio to use for all different types of recordings. It sounds great with overdrive, it sounds great with boost, it sounds great with modulation, and probably my favorite thing about this amp is the way it takes fuzz. All right, so there you go. That's my favorite small, low wattage amp and why I think you should get one. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. Also, if you're interested in getting your hands on the Skylark sound, I have Kemper profiles of that specific amp for sale available in the description box down below, so you can check those out, as well as profiles of all of my other amps that you see on the rack, plus more to come. So if you're a Kemper user and you want to get your hands on sounds that I use, check those links out below. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, me, you can find links to my contact information on my website, rhettshull.com, and be sure to follow the Rhett Shull live channel where I'm doing weekly live streams on all different types of stuff. It's kind of random every week. It's different. Also, if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click the bell icon so you can be notified when I'm posting new videos and going live on this channel. I guess that's an outro. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I'm Rhett Shull, and remember, there is no plan B.